Guys are getting a little chippy out there, and it's just football. It is what it is. I'm fine.
Welcome here into Teal, the show. You heard it from Gabe Davis. It's that time of camp. It's the dog days, and things are getting a little chippy. We got Frank Frangie in the building. Frank, look, the Jaguars have been at this for a little while now, so you're getting to that point where they're just ready to hit somebody else.
And we talked about this too, Jamal. Everyone's excited when camp starts, right? We can't wait for camp. It's football, it's football, it's football. But then it takes a while before another team comes to town, and we say, okay, it's the dog days. Well, they're seeing that as well. This is not unusual. It happens in camps all over. It gets a little chippy. People want to hit somebody that's not in their uniform, and I get it, and it's very normal. It's a feisty team, and I don't mind a little bit of a feisty team. I think the Jags need a little bit of that. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think they're fine, too. So today they had a big training camp practice. They were indoors, of course, because of all the weather that everybody's keeping an eye on. But there was a little bit of that chippy and feistiness out there on the field. Buster Brown, Gabe Davis got into a little bit of a scuffle. Buster hit Gabe Davis a little hard, and Christian Kirk comes flying off the sideline. Next thing you know, both sidelines clear. Gabe Davis said he was happy to see his teammate Christian Kirk come to his back like that.
As he should. As he should. I couldn't defend myself, so you know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah, no, I appreciate those guys going out there and doing what they did. It was funny. So Kirk got that. He got it in him for sure. Obviously he's not bringing it on your casual, Monday, but no, he's definitely got that, and I appreciate him.
Look, you like to see some of that chippiness, right, Frank? You want to see some of that from your team, a guy stand up for his teammate, even if it is, I guess, standing up to his own teammate.
Well, a couple things. Number one, it's a veteran guy. They're two veteran guys, but Christian Kirk's a veteran Jaguar. So he's one of the leaders here. And it's one of the leaders that's going to bat for a new guy who just got here. So I like that, too. Hey, you're one of the team. But I also think both Buster Brown and Christian Kirk kind of got together after the fact and said, listen, we're all one team. I don't think there's going to be any residual from this. I want tough, hard-nosed teams. I think that's what you have here. So I think it's great that Christian Kirk stood up for Gabe Davis. That's what you're supposed to do. But I think Christian Kirk and Monteric Brown were fine at the end of the day. Hey, listen, it happened in camp. I think it happened the way it should have happened. I really do.
I have no doubt that everything is fine and settled at this point once everything was done. Look, Frank, the Jaguars are going to get the opportunity to hit another team coming up this weekend. First preseason game of the year is coming Saturday against the Kansas City Chiefs. So they don't have much longer before they don't have to just keep beating up on one another. But so far through training camp, we've seen this defense kind of stand tall. Today was another good day. Andre Cisco, he hit the quarterback trifecta. He had an interception off of all three of the Jaguars quarterbacks in one day. This is another big day for the Jaguars defense. I got the chance to talk with cornerback Christian Bradwell. He's a second-year guy, and he said flat out, he loves this defense that they've put in and thinks that it's going to pay big dividends out there on the field this year.
I love this defense. Like I said before, this defense is, if I had to put a name on it, it's just confidence. It puts you in a spot where you can trust all the guys around you, you can trust the coaches around you, and you're not what we in? Everybody kind of holds everybody to a standard, holds everybody accountable, and you feel good just being in this defense. But I do obviously, playing man most of the time and, disguising certain stuff in this defense. So it's been fun.
Confidence. You like to hear that word, especially from this defense from last year, Frank, where we saw so much confusion. So hearing a guy describe it as confidence, you got to like that.
Jamal, I think that's what Ryan Nielsen has breathed into these guys some. I mean, from the day he got here, that guy's a ball coach, man. He's got the low voice. He's authoritative when he talks. I think they like the scheme. We'll know exactly what the scheme looks like when we see him play another teem. But, yeah, you heard Christian talk about playing man defense. All the rumor is and the belief is that's what they're going to do. They're going to man you up. They're going to play tough. There's going to be a simpler defense. I don't think it's going to be a very confusing defense. I don't think it's a whole lot of looks. I think it's just come at you. So we'll see if that's how it plays out. But, yeah, I think they are confident. I think there's a little bit of a swagger to that defense, Jamal, that it didn't have last year. Now, we'll see when they play against other teams. I don't know how much you're going to see of Patrick Mahomes and the key guys for the Chiefs. But at some point, they're going to play against the other team's key guys, and we'll learn more about it. But I think that confidence is real. I think what Bradwell said is real. I think there's a swagger to that defense. There's a toughness they believe they have now, and it's going to be fun to watch that play.
Christian Bradwell is a guy going into the second year in the NFL. He's made a lot of splash plays so far through camp. Doug Peterson's excited for some of these second-year guys to see what they're doing. Talking to Christian, he said, look, last year he got hurt during training camp, so he changed his diet. He's been working really hard in the training room to make sure that he's healthy and available. He is looking forward, Frank, to this first preseason game of the year. He said he wants to go and make an impact out there on the field, especially in front of the home team. I asked Doug Peterson this morning, look, how do you evaluate? Is it more important to see them do it out there on the practice field, or do you want to see them make plays out on the game field? Doug said, look, you got to take the game seriously because the games are real.
Officials under the lights, everything's magnified. You know, the false starts in practice, we correct it, but false start in the game, we back it up 5 yards. You know, stuff like that, it becomes real. So just those little things, details, but at the same time, you know, it's an opportunity for these guys to really kind of showcase themselves and, you know, put their best foot forward.
Frank, look, it's that simple. The games are real, so you want to see them do it when the lights are shining the brightest, right?
Jamal, everything's different when you're in that stadium. I felt it a little bit on Saturday when it was just a stadium practice, but it wasn't in the Miller Electric Center. It was in the stadium, and you could feel it a little bit. Oh, it's going to be way different. There's going to be 40, 50,000 people there or more on Saturday night. There's going to be people yelling and cheering for them. There's going to be cheers when they do something well, and they're going to boo the officials. That's what happens in a real game. There's none of that now, so you better believe it. And guys that haven't done it in a while, guys that haven't done it at all, absolutely you watch and see how they do compared to how they do in practice. This is a whole different setting. Now, I don't know how long you're going to see the starters. My guess is, I think Doug said today, maybe a series or two is typically what you do in this first game. But that stretch is very important for everybody that plays in that stadium Saturday night. Make no mistake about that.
The Jaguars definitely have a long list of injuries right now, so we'll see how many of those starters Doug Peterson's comfortable with playing in that game on Saturday night. Coming up next here on Teal the Show, we'll get Frank Frangie's thoughts on some of the young players that are starting to separate themselves from the crowd as we move forward through training camp, and who needs to have a big night on Saturday in that first preseason game of the year. We'll talk all about it next when Teal the Show returns. Welcome back here into Teal the Show. All right, Frank, we got to get your thoughts on this thing. We are starting to count down to that first preseason game of the year, and I know we have one more Teal the Show before the kickoff of that game on Saturday. But I want to get your early thoughts on guys that have a lot to prove this week. They've been doing it on the practice field, but Saturday when the lights shine the brightest, guys that have the most to prove because they're trying to earn a spot on this roster.
You know, Jamal, on every team now, you carry 53. On just about every team now, you know 40, right? You know 40, you may know 4, based on how veteran the team is, you may know 45, you may know 48 of them, you know 40 of them. So that last 5, 6, 7, 10 guys, however many it is, and if you're a young team that's rebuilding, there's more of those. If you're a veteran team, and the Jags are getting closer to being that, there may be 5 or 6 position spots. Those are the guys that these games are really important for. Does Elijah Cooks make the team ahead of Joshua Stevens? Do they both make the team? Is Tim Jones in some trouble? I think those are the guys. Backup cornerbacks, backup linebackers, offensive linemen. You think you know the 6 or 7 first guys, but who are the 8th and 9th guys? Who makes the team down the road? Stephen Jones makes the team. Blake Hance, I think, is on the team. So I think if you look at the guys that are in that first 40, 45, these games don't affect them very much from a roster standpoint. But that last 6 to 8 guys, every rep on Saturday night matters. You better believe it.
Let me ask you about a guy that we heard from early in the show, Christian Bradwell. He's going into his second year. He's far from a lock for this roster. He's going to be fighting against guys like DeAndre Prince for that roster spot. What do you think about his chances? What does he need to do?
They drafted him, and you like guys that you drafted. I think that's part of it. I think when you get in there, you got to cover. You got to make a play. I think that's it. I think that second. I think there's a lot of guys, and Jamal, you and I have had this talk, that were drafted a year ago. Tank Bigsby and Brenton Strange, they're going to be on the team, but they're the guys that take that next step. Does Abdullah take the next step? Does Tyler Lacey take the next step? And Christian Bradwell's in that group. Guys that were drafted a year ago, but really didn't know how the NFL felt. What's an NFL training table like? What's an NFL kind of a full season like? What are OTAs like? What are the mini camps like? Well, now that group knows all that. Now they've been through it twice. So I think that group, I like Christian Bradwell. I do. I'm not sure who the last 2 or 3 cornerbacks on the team, but I think he's got a chance. But you mentioned it. It's a guy like that has to play well when he gets a chance in these preseason games.
All right. I asked you about a young guy. I want to stay on that defense, but ask you about a couple of older guys. What about Jeremiah Ledbetter and Adam Gostis? The Jaguars have drafted a handful of defensive linemen over the past couple of years. At some point, you start running out of roster spots. You get in that squeeze. They're going to be looking at these two veteran guys. They still have a lot to prove, even though they've been there and kind of done that in the NFL.
No question. It'll be interesting to see how many interior defensive linemen they keep. But Eric Armstead, Roy Robertson Harris, Devon Hamilton, Tyler Lacey, they're going to be on the team. Right? We know that. Gostis and Ledbetter have helped this team over the years. But all of a sudden, here comes Mason Smith. Here comes Jordan Jefferson. Well, if those two rookies make the team, they're going to. The first 4 guys I mentioned, they're probably going to. That's 6 guys. Maybe you keep a 7th. I don't know that you keep an 8th. So I think veteran guys. Remember this, too. Gostis has been a good Jaguar. Ledbetter's been a good Jaguar. So what you've put on tape before this season probably factors in as well. But no, that's a crowded room all of a sudden. And that's a good thing, by the way. Teams are good when you've got to cut good players. But I think the 2 guys you mentioned are going to have to fight because there's an awful lot of young guys. Remember, Jordan Jefferson, Mason Smith, Tyler Lacey. They drafted those guys. So they saw a lot even before they got here, plus the free agent and that we mentioned before. You got a lot of guys here. So if all those guys that we mentioned are on the team, it's going to be tough for your veteran guys.
A lot of tough decisions, and these preseason games mean a lot to a lot of guys on this roster. So it's definitely going to be something that we will be keeping a close eye on. Again, that first preseason game of the year set for Saturday night. We still have one more Teal the Show coming your way on Friday night before then. But that'll do it for us here tonight on Teal the Show. Frank, thanks for being here. Thank you at home for tuning in. Good night, everybody.